I don't think I'm going to get in trouble from anyone because I don't even know anyone anymore. But
This the Diva segment.
that's what I thought.
It was not scripted.
And they told us to say whatever we wanted. I got pulled aside by production, by Stephanie McMahon. Surprise! I'm 100% positive that someone poured a drink all over her when we were sleeping. I'm going to just spill all this tea with you today. I've been holding it for you.
Welcome everyone to Ring the Belle, this is DS, and today we are joined by only the Diva Icon, Joy Giovanni!
Oh my gosh, what an amazing intro. Thank you, DS. It is really my honor, and you and I have been messaging for some time and have finally made this happen.
I'm so glad this is happening because fans have been just like, where's Joy Giovanni? Where's Joy Giovanni? Because you are a freaking icon. Like, your name is always mentioned in all our live chats and comment section.
Okay, I'm still working on accepting this word. It's a big word, icon. I like it.
So I'm very glad for this interview finally happening and to kind of go down the memory lane to go over your adventure through Diva Search, WWE, and kind of catching up to what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let me ask you, on a scale of like kayfabe to let it all out, where do you want me to be?
I mean, let it all out is where where everyone wanted to be.
Okay, you said it.
Let's go for it. Let's start from the start, the beginning, the Diva Search time. So how did you get to learn about Diva Search? And, how did you sign up for it? And were you a fan of pro wrestling before that?
What happened was I was already acting and modeling and building my career in LA. I had a couple agents that I was working with. And one of the agents had a request from WWE and they sent a ton of talent. So I was just one of, at least 100 girls. They kind of just sent everyone they had. So I was one of those girls and it was an all-day interview. It was going to be like, usually auditions or go-sees. You're there for just a little period of time. You do whatever they want you to do. And then you leave. But this was at a hotel ballroom right near the airport in LA. And it was scheduled to be like an all-day interview. Okay. I was like, I don't really want to go to this. This is like and I didn't know even what it was necessarily. So I really was hesitant about going, to be honest, but I had missed a couple auditions not long before that. And I was like, my agent's going to drop me if I don't go to this. I have to go to this. So I put myself together and I went. I hadn't watched pro wrestling for some time, but I'm an Italian girl from back east and I have a ridiculous amount of cousins. And so we used to watch it back in the old days of Hulk Hogan and, Brutus the Barber Beefcake and all the old old classic talent that they had then. So I remembered it from those days. But if I'm honest, I didn't realize that it was still a thing and it was as big as it was then. I know it sounds ridiculous. It just wasn't my world at the time. You know what I mean?
So how was that experience like jumping into the wrestling locker room as a contestant who's just joined in?
So I think one of the things that I don't know if has really been brought to light is exactly how different that process was. We only came once a week for the televised show, and we were completely segregated in a tiny, tiny room that had a bathroom inside, and we were not allowed to engage, mix and mingle. We were not even supposed to leave that room unless they came and got us, which actually set up some ill feelings from the talent that was there because they perceived it as being disrespectful and that we didn't want to engage with them. There's all the secret backstage rules and all that. So they thought we were rude when really we didn't even know why they didn't like us. And that's just how they set it up. And then every week you would find out, obviously, if you were returning the next week. And they really didn't tell us what we were going to be doing the next week. We were just instructed to bring a bikini, a club wear outfit, and then an athletic outfit. And then they would tell us pretty much like right before, or sometimes, as you might remember with the Carmella episode, not at all. So we usually didn't know what we were doing.
And the other thing that a lot of the people fell in love with you with is that you are a mom.
Oh, here we go. You just get right in there. Let's do it.
Did that kind of factor into your experience competing for Diva Search?
So the interesting thing, we are maybe not quite 20 years later, but like approaching 20 years, right? Back then, the industry was completely different. The film and television industry industry and the quote unquote sports entertainment industry, it was highly unacceptable to have children. It wasn't something that people would out loud tell you, just like other types of discrimination. But if an agent, if a manager, if a production found out that you have kids, you were undesirable. You know, you wouldn't be at their beck and call, so they wouldn't want that. So I know you touched on this in the episode where you interviewed Christy Hemme.
We have to talk about this very memorable segment. Dis the Diva.
Dis the Diva.
Okay, tell me everything about what happened here. What was going on?
Oh my gosh.
Carmella, in all of her glory, was the one that outed me to the entire world that I was a mom. Nobody knew.
She has babies, and it'd be really hard to find the time, I guess, to do this.
I got pulled aside by production, by Stephanie McMahon, by everyone you could imagine, and they were like, "Do you have kids?" And I was like, surprise, I do. And the crazy thing is, the only reason she knew that is because of that tiny room that we were in. She would hear my personal phone conversations talking to my kids multiple times a day. So she took it upon herself to bring me out of the parenthood closet. And to be quite honest, I actually got dropped by one of my agents because of it.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I was so pissed the whole time over it.
I want to see Carmella eat crow. That's right.
I was like, you don't just out somebody and you don't talk about an Italian girl's kids. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Because that was my next topic.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. Yeah.
The legendary Dis the Diva segment.
Dis the Diva.
That's what I thought.
Having a in your mouth has nothing to do with wrestling.
Probably the most foul-mouthed segment in the history of pro wrestling. What was that like? It was not scripted.
It was not scripted. So basically, the week previous, they had brought each of us into a room, and the question was, who would you like to vote off and why? And as you remember, in that segment, everybody said Miss Carmella. She said me because I was a mom and belonged at home with my children, which I know we have a very different understanding of this today. It's a different world. So a lot of us were friends, and to be quite honest, my friends were also upset that someone did this to me because they knew that was families off limits. You know what I mean? In any type of entertainment industry, families off limits, especially kids. So several of us sat together and kind of talked about what we were going to say, what we should do. They gave us some loose guidelines. I will let you know, we did ask, are we allowed to say anything at all? Or is there a limit to our language? And they told us to say whatever we wanted, which actually caused another big stir because at the time, unbeknownst to us, the talent had started getting fined for using profanity because of network television. So we didn't know. They told us, say whatever you want. It might have been me, but I remember the conversation. We asked, are we allowed to make any physical contact? And the directive on that was, well, if someone feels like you hurt them and they want to sue you, you're on your own. So basically we were like, okay, so we can use our words, That's basically what happened there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How did Stacy Keibler react? Because she was the one hosting the whole thing.
I don't remember, to be honest. It's just kind of was like a big blur. And anytime you're out in front of an arena full of people, essentially in your underwear, it's a different experience. So a lot of it is a little bit surreal to me, even in my memory. I did get to know Stacy a bit when I was working on the show, even though she was on a different show than me. And she's a real easygoing girl. So I'm sure she was shocked in the moment. But it definitely wouldn't have been language that no one had heard before. So, and in wrestling, truthfully, there are some shocking moments, but how shocking is any of it really,
I mean, we still talk about it today, so
Really?
That was a pretty shocking moment. What was your relationship with all the other competitors? Obviously we talked about Carmella, and Amy, we're going to talk about Amy.
Okay.
But with Christy Hemme or Michelle McCool, Maria Kanellis, how was your rapport with them?
I think pretty well. I mean, there was a time... Yeah, several of us I roomed with Christy on and off at one point. Candace and I had been friends from before. Previously, we had worked together. I mean, to be quite honest, I felt like Christy was a shoo-in from the beginning with her energy, with her, background, with being really rough and tumble in the motorcycle world. She just felt like she belonged there. So I, from the very beginning, every time was like, oh, for sure, I'm going home today. But yeah, I really got along well with all of the other girls. A couple years ago, I dropped a kind of like a flashback photo of several of us after one of the events at dinner, just casually. Tracy was there, Maria was there, I think the twins were there, so we all got along pretty well.
I mean, you're being very humble because you placed top 3.
Oh, we were very kind, but...
Top 3, and then right after that, you were asked to join the company. How did that happen?
It wasn't long after. Yeah, they... some time had passed. I can't quite remember what month it was when that Diva Search ended. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like we started into the fall, and right around a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, maybe, I got a call and they just said the Diva Search was on Raw and they were interested in me coming on, back then they called it developmentally, which means we want to try you out kind of a thing, on SmackDown. Not developmentally for wrestling per se, but the way it was posed at the time was that they were bringing on some people that had more of an acting background to help support the storylines. That is one thing I will say I feel like I did, was support the storylines.
You had so many memorable moments, so that's perfect.
I really did, yeah.
It was very interesting to see a lot of the Diva Search competitors come in that time because they all had this occupation. So Candice Michelle was a makeup artist, Maria Kanellis was interviewer, and you were a massage therapist. How did you get to choose that job?
I actually have been a licensed massage therapist since 2021.
Oh,
I mean, 2001, not 2021,
Yeah.
2001, sorry. So that was what I did before I started acting. I was interested in wellness. I was pursuing a career in natural medicine, and I was a licensed massage therapist and a fitness trainer. I worked sports specific with some professional athletes, golfers and stuff. So that already was... That was legit. I mean, not the outfit, but the practice, right?
I have to talk about your iconic theme song. Because
okay, you're going to like what I'm going to tell you about this, so go ahead.
Yes, please.
So I have to tell you, for the longest time, okay, so you know how when it comes out of those big speakers, the sound is very muddled? For a really long time, I can't tell you how long, but like too long, I thought the song said "ewy, ewy, ewy." And I was like, what is this? Like, why did you guys pick this song for me? Like, what even is this? Eventually... I think it was after I wasn't even there anymore that I was like, oh, this is saying something totally different. That's what happened.
So every time you're walking out, you were like, what is this song?
I just thought it was like, ew, ew, ew. But, you know, and the crowd's there, so you're not necessarily focused on the music. It kind of fades into the background a little bit. And usually I was going out there to do something, so I was more focused on that, really. But yeah, I don't think I've ever told anyone that before, so that's...
So you did not like that iconic song?
I did not like it. I just misunderstood it, and I appreciate it much more now, understanding the words.
So you jumped into this huge storyline with JBL and Big Show that everyone remembers you from. You got kidnapped and you were behind the limo.
It was a lot of fun. Actually, one of the funny things is I just made friends with a lot of like the writers and the crew, and because you're around them so much. And I had a joking relationship with one of the writers who was primarily working on these segments. And he would say it was his job to call me every week and see if he could convince me to do whatever it was that they had cooked up for me to do. And I remember him being like, you always say yes. And I'm like, well, I'm an actor. You don't get to say, I don't like this script. I'm not going to do it. You just are like, all right, what do I wear for that? So they were shocked that I was willing to do all these things, but it was a great time. And Show was so helpful to me. Big Show, he was really helpful to me along my way, I'll say.
Was there any segment that you remember the most from working with them?
Oh, geez. I mean, I think I probably remember the big ones that everybody else remembers. One thing that I think is commonly a misconception is that people don't know that I was in the trunk of that limo the whole entire time. The whole time the limo was out there, I was in there. And I actually was kind of friends with Orlando, and he had flipped down the armrest thing because there was access to the trunk. It's like a safety mechanism. And I remember him being like, are you okay in there? Are you going to be fine? And at the last minute, I was listening to the show, and I had to put my gag on. It says loose enough. And I hyperventilated so successfully that I almost sent myself into hyperventilation when I was on that gurney. So... And I have to tell you, Show is an incredible actor. He could bring the tears like that. So he brought some tears. It was really good. So that segment was funny because a lot of people don't realize that I was in the car the whole time.
Later that year, you won the 2005 Rookie Diva of the Year contest with the whooping 65% of the vote.
Well, to be fair, I was in a main event program, so a lot of people probably just knew who I was. I'm gonna just spill all this tea with you today. I've been holding it for you, just so you know. People don't realize that time slot for that pay-per-view was held for Amy and I to have a match. We were working out. We had already been developing a match and had been working out a match, and we were supposed to have a match during that segment. So they were like, oh, what do we do with this segment? So that's how that came about. If it did seem kind of, I know people were like, that was just kind of a weird segment. That's how it got cooked up, because they were like, we need a Diva segment. It was supposed to be this match. What do we do?
Oh, wow. I did not know about that. Oh, my God.
I'm telling you, I got all the tea for you, DS.
Another important thing, the reason why people remember you is because you were in the game. SmackDown versus Raw 2006.
It was fun. It was cool to be in the game.
I dressed up in that color scheme of the iconic outfit that you wore in the game.
Yes, I have more tea for you about this. Team that comes in to photograph for video games and for action figures happened to be there that day. I mean, I know it's a stretch of memory. If you remember, that day on the show, Amy and I had a little bit of a tussle.
Yes.
Basically, my job was to be the catalyst for that, give them something to fight over. So she and I had been in a tussle, so that outfit does appear on the show. But many people might be surprised to know that that outfit was entirely crafted from Forever 21. I mean, we had to buy all our own clothes, and we had to make it work every week with all these different outfits and put it together. And of course, they wanted something that was revealing in every way without being inappropriate. One of the outfits that I see a lot still in like the still photos was from the kids section of Target. It's a brass outfit. I had gotten so small at the time that I could fit in like a kid's large. So yeah, people don't realize where we were putting it together from.
Oh, wow. Forever 21 creating iconic legendary diva gear.
You'd be surprised.
Also on SmackDown, you had this kind of like this faction with Michelle McCool and Lauren Jones, and you were like the new blood of SmackDown, and had this almost like a mini feud, mostly with Dawn Marie, but with the OG veterans of SmackDown with Tori Wilson and Miss Jackie.
I mean, I know that they had set it up really, they wanted Amy and I to work a program for a long time. And so I think when she moved away from it, I think that they just were like, what do we do with this girl now? Like, I just didn't really necessarily have as much of a role for them to do with me. I was really grateful that the girls that had been there, you know, the previous talent, were so kind and were working with us, and they were amazing to work with. I got nothing bad to say about them.
That was my following question, because that was a transitional time in Divas division where these newer girls were kind of replacing some of the veterans that was already in the roster. So I was wondering, what was it like backstage working with them, like Dawn Marie and Miss Jackie, who pretty quickly left the company afterwards?
I actually was released at the same time as Jackie, and she was one of the people I called that I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And then I found out her and Charlie had also been released, and I think 50 or so other people at the time. It was interesting. I think Dawn was actually really helpful in helping me understand the type of style they were looking for. As we all know, wrestling's a very specific niche, and what you might wear there is not something you might wear to like a grocery store or to like a regular audition, you know? So she was really helpful in helping me understand kind of the style they were looking for. It does become, you see everyone at the gym, and if you are nice to them, they're nice to you. If you're respectful to them, they're respectful to you. It's not maybe as tense as it appeared.
So let's talk about your arch nemesis, Amy Weber.
Let's get in there.
So Amy Weber, you just told me that you were supposed to have a match. The match that was announced on SmackDown, we were so ready to see you kind of get down there, wrestle the heck out of Amy Weber, but that match never happened.
The day I was in the trunk, that was kind of the whole storyline, was Amy and I were going to have a match. I was like all greased up with this gross baby oil, and then I got kidnapped was kind of the way that segment went. So then that match didn't happen, and it was rescheduled for the pay-per-view, which I have to tell you was a really big deal that they were giving two newcomers a pay-per-view solo match. That was a really big deal. I was shocked and super grateful about it. We were training when we I have some photos of it somewhere. When we were in Japan, Fit Finley was working with us to work out a match. I was working out a signature move, was essentially a full splits across the top rope in the corner into a sunset flip was going to be my signature move. Does that make sense? Got it. We were working it out, but I don't know, as part of me being there, I felt like it's almost impossible to be around these incredible athletes who are using their bodies in such difficult ways for this sports entertainment that I already, as soon as I signed with the company, was going down early. They have the ring set up, people are working out, and I was there asking people to help me learn how to take a bump, help me learn anything. Like, what can you teach me? Even just out of respect. You can't be there and not think things are going to go in a physical way, even though my contract was stated in a way that I wasn't required to do that. It just was something that I was like, when I commit, I commit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So nobody was like, okay, let's teach you the basics. You had to go out and ask for it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also heard that Undertaker trained you for a little bit.
I mean, I wouldn't say he trained me. He was one of the people that was trying to teach me in all of his long wisdom how to take a bump, you know what I mean, on the canvas. And I remember him saying, you got to tuck your chin, but you just land flat with your whole body at once. And I just was like, what does that even mean? He was working with me. I mean, it could have been, in my memory now, it could have been 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It felt like a long time to me. And I remember the rest of the day and the next day, I couldn't even turn my head just from like trying to land and trying to do it. Because I want to do it right, but your body naturally doesn't want to let you fall flat on your back. And that ring, if you're 100 pounds, is not so bouncy, I have to tell you.
How was your relationship with Amy? Were you already friends before?
We became friends during the competition. And we were some of the only people that lived in LA. Most of the talent didn't live in LA. So most of our flights were together. We would drive together. She and I were rooming together, and we were friends. We're friends even now, so.
In early 2005, Amy left the company after an incident at an airplane, which she talked about in her YouTube show a couple of years ago, actually.
I was awoken by someone pouring a drink in my face. He slammed into it like a linebacker so hard that I landed on the floor of the airplane, and I was done. I just felt like I couldn't continue to be in an environment where people really had no respect for me.
And I heard that you also wanted to leave the company with Amy during that time. You were thinking about that.
Actually, Amy has a podcast, and maybe a year, a little more ago, we did a chat about this. And I don't think I had said it to her before, but I felt really bad always for not leaving in solidarity with her. I was sitting with her at the time. I'm 100% positive that someone poured a drink all over her when we were sleeping. We almost didn't sleep that entire flight to Japan because we had been warned of all the horror stories of, hey, sometimes if you fall asleep, people will come cut your hair. They'll do all kinds of things to you. So we were terrified. And I actually felt bad for staying when she left because I knew the treatment was wrong. But quite frankly, I had a family to support. I was a primary supporter of my family and some additional family members at that point. But it is something that stays with me.
Did you see any changes in backstage after Amy left?
No. I mean, it was harder, I think, for them to create storylines for me after a little while, but... and I sort of think that's what happened with the taper off, and they just decided to go a different direction. The other thing to know is that flight, so it was a chartered commercial flight, so we were the only people on the flight. The night before we were to fly out, Vince pulled both of his hamstrings. In the ring. He insisted on going to the ring for some kind of like stunt, and he ended up pulling both of his hamstrings. I think there might have been tear. It was something where he could not fly. And people had commented that flights were very different when he was there versus when he was not there. So that was just a general comment of some of the longstanding talent. So nothing necessarily changed. I feel like the tough thing is Amy had such a long-standing film and television career.
Yeah.
She's a SAG actress for a long time. I mean, she did that Howard Stern show a long time ago that he had. She's done a lot of shows, so she was used to the way things run on a set. You know what I mean? So I think people were perceiving her as maybe cold or shut off. I knew her to be very different than that, but I also know that she presents business ready for business. You know what I mean? Like that's just, she presents in a very serious way because she also was a producer. She owned an agency at the time. So to be a strong woman in Hollywood, you have to present that way. It's just, I don't think she was as well received by people that didn't know her. I had gotten the message from several different people that they felt off-put by her and that perhaps it would do me well to start distancing myself a little bit in that people thought of me as Joy and Amy. We're always together. We found like security in each other of like, okay, let's go to lunch. You know what I mean? So they were like, maybe you could just get to know some people on your own because we feel you're very open and, easy to get along with and easy to get to know. And perhaps you could just start spending time with people on your own. So I did just for my own career, but her and I were also together a lot that week. So
that is wild. Those are harassment, but then they were like saying, oh, it's okay because it's like hazing is how they're viewing it, right? Is that?
Yeah. I think it's because, from what I understand, quote unquote, back in the day of like when there was like Sable and the people that I know from when I was a kid, I understand that the hazing was 100 times worse back then. So they kind of had felt like it was very mild compared to perhaps what it used to be. I can give you a good example. It's not a hazing example. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble from anyone because I don't even know anyone anymore. But you may have heard about this. Ric Flair happened to be with the company at that time. He would put on his robe and kind of do his woo thing, like up and down the airplane. Perhaps some people had had a couple drinks. I cannot confirm or deny that. But it was a fun vibe to it. And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And someone who had been there a long time made the comment to me that like, yeah, and now because it's different, he wears clothes under the robe. But back then he didn't used to, is what they kind of said. So they were like, it's different now. He's got clothes on. And I was like, oh, okay. But it's kind of like that, where it's like, it's not so bad because it's better than it used to be, maybe.
Afterwards, you also did a DVD with Amy, the Amy
versus
Joey,
we did a couple
right?
years later. You know, I never saw the finished product. We paid for that production of that ourselves. It is out there somewhere.
It is out there. I saw a trailer.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the trailer, but I've never seen the final product.
Someone send Joey DVD right now.
Yes, please. If someone has it, please send it to me because I've never seen it.
Do you know what the original plan was for you two at No Way Out? Were you supposed to be victorious?
I would guess because I was the face. I mean, who knows? I mean, the match hadn't been completely worked all the way out. We were just kind of blocking. We were starting to just understand the moves because we were really new to it. I don't recall. It's totally just speculation. I'm assuming that I probably was supposed to win unless they were going to take it a different direction and she was going to do the old cheat at the last minute kind of a thing, which also could have possibly been true. It's just been so long, and since it didn't happen, I don't remember. Sorry.
July of 2005, you left the company. Tell me about how that happened, what went through your mind.
I actually, a lot of people don't know this, but I was completely heartbroken by my release because over the time, part of my deal, my contract, was that I only was required to appear for televised events. So I was only there for TV once a week. I was there for press conferences and pay-per-views and things like that. But I wasn't on the road with everyone. Within a couple weeks before the release, I had agreed to go on the road full time. So I was going to start training. I was going to go on the road full time. And I had my bags literally packed by my front door to leave for the airport in the morning. And the night before I was to leave, I got the call. Apparently, I was the last of the 50 to find out. I was last on the list of the calls. And I know, I mean, some people that I were friends with that I reached out to, Jackie and Charlie, Shofunaki, remember him? So there were some other people that I just was like, what is happening? I wasn't given really any reason. It's just, they kind of said, we just do this periodically and we release. And I was like, well, how many people? And they were like 50 people. I was like, that's a lot of people to just release, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what happened. But I was pretty devastated because I had let go of roles because I was going to go full time with them. I had so much respect for that industry, but my interest was so different. I was already a SAG actor, which, as you know, is kind of hard to get. You know what I mean? So I had already paid my dues in that way. And that was my focus. And I had kind of a team at that time, managers and agents and a publicist. And I was like, I'm afraid to do this because I might not ever be respected as an actor after this. At that time, it wasn't a thing. I mean, there was Dwayne and nobody else. You know what I mean? It just wasn't, there was no crossover back then. In fact, we weren't even allowed to have social media. I think it was only Twitter back then, but we weren't allowed to have it. So for me, making that decision that, okay, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to train. I'm going to go on the road full time. It sort of felt like conceding to now do this and give my whole heart to it. And then a couple weeks later, they broke up with me, basically, is how it felt. Yeah. So I was pretty devastated.
Especially because you were getting so much spotlight that was very shocking to a lot of the fans. But all the fans were waiting. It was kind of unexpected, too. In 2009, you made your return to WWE for the biggest show of all, WrestleMania 25 Divas Battle Royale match. Walk me through this. First, let's start with getting that call.
I didn't get the call. So this is, I don't know if anyone knows this. You're really Me and you, I'm telling you. We should have our own show. I had a friend at the time who was like, hey, I know you've really moved away from this. I know you're not doing any conventions, no work like this, but they're going to have WrestleMania. At the time, they were at a show in Texas, and my friend was like, I will drive with you. Let's go there. You can say hi to everyone, and you can let them know that you'd be open to doing the WrestleMania in however many months away it was. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But he was like, it'll be fun. It'll be a road trip, and you'll get to see your friends. And so I agreed. So that's what happened. I went. I saw everyone. They kind of obviously need to see your physical appearance and what you're looking like right then. And I just let them know, hey, I'd be open to an invitation kind of a thing. So that's how that happened.
Oh, wait, so you went to
I went there to a show, to like just a televised show. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I rolled up in there and was like, hey, if you're asking, I'm available. Like, that's kind of what happened.
Did you have time to prepare for it? Because a lot of people don't realize that was your in-ring debut.
I know. Crazy, right? I don't know that there was anything to prepare for. I mean, I got tossed out of the ring by Santino in drag, essentially, at the time.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much to prepare for except to make my outfit and glue all my little rhinestones on my chucks myself. And I put that whole outfit together myself.
I love that outfit, by the way.
Well, thank you. I laced the pink ribbon through the fishnets myself and tied them. I mean, I made that whole outfit myself.
Oh my God.
The other funny thing is, so I had been gone a couple years, as you mentioned, and the networks had changed by that time. And so the underneath shorts that I had were not to the requirement. And so one of the amazing, beautiful, talented Bellas gave me some chones. She gave me some underwear, to the bloomers to wear underneath. So even those girls, just popping in, they had no idea who I was. They were so kind and so generous to me. Yeah, so that was, there wasn't much to prepare for that.
And how was it like to reunite with like some Michelle McCool, who became like such a big name in the company by then?
She was already so athletic. I mean, she was an incredible athlete even before that. She was starting to train in the ring when I was there as well. I had no doubt that she would end up being, at least, if not a champion, at least someone who was in those matches. Just to look at her from the Diva Search, she's clearly a very athletically gifted girl. Do you know what I mean? And she had the drive. She, submitted herself for that audition. She wasn't, she was a school teacher. She wasn't an actor. So she had been just a huge fan her entire life and was kind of fangirl for some of the guys and for some of the people there, and was just so excited to be there and really put in the work. So she totally deserved everything she achieved.
Speaking of Michelle McCool, because I have to bring up, you guys just destroying the veteran divas in that dodgeball.
Oh, yeah. I remember dodgeball. What I remember was being very proud that even though I got hit and got out, I took someone out with me. I can't remember who I hit. Actually, Nydia and I became friends for a while. Jazz was an incredible athlete and talented woman. My gosh. First of all, I have to tell you, we were terrified because they were so kayfabe with us when we went in there. They were like, and a lot of us were like actor skinny, and they were like fitness strong. You know what I mean? So we were like, oh my God, these girls are going to kill us. Like, that was the vibe, okay? It was a fun time, and afterwards it ended up being like, they were like, oh, you guys, they appreciated that we like brought it as best as we could. You know what I mean?
Did you hear that they were brought into wrestling court after that?
Yes, we did hear about that. I mean, because we became friends, they were like, you guys got us. I mean, but Michelle was the rock star of that. She really, like single-handedly, I think maybe we distracted them, but like I said, I got out early.
So let's bring it back to today. You are now a medium.
Well, I mean, I've always been, but I'm now an out medium.
Okay. So for people who might not know exactly what that means, can you explain what being a medium is?
Of course. Thanks for asking. Essentially, mediumship is a gift, a spiritual gift. All mediums are also psychic. I believe everyone has intuitive ability and psychic ability. That segment of it is really just if you've ever walked into a room and felt like, oh, something's off here, or someone must be upset, something doesn't quite feel right. It's that, but it's training it to a heightened extent to get specific details and information. Mediumship is a little different. It's connecting with loved ones that have already crossed over to the other side. So people that have already passed away. The type of mediumship that I practice is technically called, quote unquote, evidential. which just means that when someone's loved one in a session, for example, wants to communicate, I like that loved one in the spirit world to give me some specific detail about their life here, who they were. They'll share memories sometimes, specific details about their life. They'll share what they want. So some want to talk about their passing and some don't, for example. But it's really me helping people that are still here in the living connect with and understand that life goes on. That just because, hashtag quantum physics, right? Just because we are not in this physical body anymore, our soul doesn't die, it doesn't disappear. The love that we shared still exists, just in a different way.
So you said you were always a medium. When did you get to kind of use that to help other people, I'll say?
That's a good question. So it's only in looking back that I realized that it was always with me. I didn't identify it when I was a kid. I was having strange experiences, but it's just not something you really talk about or tell people, or you don't know, that everyone else isn't doing it. So it's really only in hindsight that I understand it. So once it started happening, I was like, hold on. Wasn't expecting people who had been living to come stand next to me and give me information.
Wow,
so once that started happening, I was like, I was pretty much an open-minded skeptic at that point. I didn't even allow those type of television shows in my house. It's like a total joke with my kids. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to open doors. I don't understand. I was like raised Catholic. I didn't know what the rules were. I sought out mentors and trainers because I wanted to know, do I have this gift? Do I even want it? Is it scary? What am I supposed to do with this? What do I even do with this if I do have it? So that was my journey from there.
The last question I have is, when I posted that you will be joining Ring the Belle for an interview, I got hundreds of questions.
Really? Oh my gosh. I'm always so shocked because as you know, I don't really ever have a match. I don't know about my validity in that world. So I'm always touched and appreciated a lot.
A lot of them are asking if they can hear that only, potentially that song for Royal Rumble, maybe.
Oh, for me to return?
Yeah.
Geez. I don't know. Never say never, but probably not. I'll say it that way. Never say never, probably not. I could make a cameo in a different, but am I going to do a formal match? Let's be honest, guys. I turned 45 5 days ago. I have not been training for wrestling for the last 10 years. So,
okay.
I don't know. And who wants to see that? Nobody really wants to see that, I don't think.
We would love to see you with that Forever 21 outfit.
I don't think I could fit in that Forever 21 outfit. I still have it, by the way. I still have it. I do. I still have I still have pretty much everything that appeared on TV.
Thank you so much, Joy, for joining in for this interview.
Thank you so
What do you want
much.
to tell the fans that have been loving you, they have been talking about you for years? What do you want to tell them?
I want to tell them, first of all, I am so grateful. Don't think that I don't appreciate the love and support every day, and your time and energy that you put into even caring that I exist. So thanks for that. If you want to catch up with me these days on most social, @name is @joyfulmedium. A little bit of a play on my name. I'm pretty interactive, so if you want to, drop in the comments, I usually engage back. I'm not in the DMs, but in the comments I am. A podcast I'm super excited about. I just launched that in December. It's called Spirit Speakeasy. It is everywhere that you would normally find podcasts, all the platforms. And it's fun because we're doing interviews with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. And then I also do solo episodes with your chats, giving tips and tricks about things like, I have one that's going to drop Monday about not getting scammed by mediums and psychics online. I actually did an episode that's my full explanation. It's WWE Diva to Psychic Medium. And it's my whole story. It's what happened after my release. It's how I felt, way deeper into that story. So if you want to know where I'm at and what I'm doing, come and check me out on social or listen to the podcast. My website is joyfulmedium.com. That's the best way to connect with me. Please don't be fooled by frauds.